Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to MEA'S place. Today we are doing some devotional Bible study reading today, and this is coming from 2 Corinthians chapter 8. And before we get started, if you can tap and put a thumbs up on that like button and subscribe, that will be surely appreciated. Okay, let's get started. Chapter 8. Macedonians, an example of giving. Moreover, brethren, we make known to you the grace of God bestowed on the churches of Macedonia, that in a great trial of affliction, the abundance of their joy and their deep poverty abounded in the riches of their liberality. For I bear witness that according to their ability, yes, and beyond their ability, they were freely willing, imploring us with much urgency that we would receive the gift and the fellowship of the ministering to the saints. And not only as we had hoped, but they first gave themselves to the Lord, and then to us by the will of God. So we urge Titus that as he had begun, so he would also complete this grace in you as well. But as you abound in everything, in faith, in speech, in knowledge, in all diligence, and in your love for us, see that you abound in this grace also. I speak not by commandment, but I am testing the sincerity of your love by the diligence of others. For you know the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ, that though he was rich, yet for your sakes he became poor, that you through his poverty might become rich. And in this I give advice. It is to your advantage not only to be doing what you began and were desiring to do a year ago, but now you also must complete the doing of it, that as there was a readiness to desire it, so there also may be a completion out of what you have. For if there is first a willing mind, it is accepted according to what one has, and not according to what he does not have. For I do not mean that others should be eased and you burdened, but by an equality, that now at this time your abundance may supply their lack, that their abundance also may supply your lack, that there may be equality, as it is written, he who gathered much had nothing left over, and he who gathered little had no lack. But thanks be to God, who puts the same earnest care for you into the heart of Titus. For he not only accepted the exhortation, but being more diligent, he went to you of his own accord, and we have sent with him the brother whose praise is in the gospel throughout all the churches. And not only that, but who was also chosen by the churches to travel with us with this gift, which is administered by us to the glory of the Lord himself, and to show your ready mind, avoiding this, that anyone should blame us in this lavish gift which is administered by us, providing honorable things, not only in the sight of the Lord, but also in the sight of men. And we have sent with them our brother, whom we have often proved diligent in many things, but now much more diligent because of the great confidence which we have in you. If anyone inquires about Titus, he is my partner and fellow worker concerning you. Or if our brethren are inquired about, they are messengers of the churches, the glory of Christ. Therefore show to them and before the churches the proof of your love and of our boasting on your behalf. Now, let's see if we can go to the MacArthur Study Bible and look at these notes down here on chapter 8, so we can interpret correctly some of these verses and what he's talking about and meaning on giving. And right here in chapter 8, these study notes right here, we're going to read. While this section specifically deals with Paul's instruction to the Corinthians about a particular collection for the saints in Jerusalem, it also provides the richest, most detailed model of Christian giving in the New Testament. The generosity of the churches of Macedonia was motivated by God's grace. Paul did not merely commend those churches of a noble human work, but instead gave the credit to God for what he did through them. Macedonia was the northern Roman province of Greece. Paul's reference was to the churches at Philippi, Thessalonica, and Berea. This was basically an impoverished province that had been ravaged by many wars, and even then was being plundered by Roman authority and commerce. Abundance means surplus. In spite of their difficult circumstances, the church's joy rose above their pain because of their devotion to the Lord and the causes of his kingdom. Deep means according to the depth or extremely deep. Poverty refers to the most severe type of economic deprivation, the kind that caused a person to become a beggar. The Greek word for liberality can be translated generosity or sincerity. It is the opposite of duplicity or being double-minded. The Macedonian believers were rich in their single-minded, selfless generosity to God and to others. Paul highlighted 3 elements of the Macedonians' giving, which summed up the concept of free will giving. 1, according to their ability, giving is proportionate. God sets no fixed amount or percentage and expects his people to give based on what they have. This is enforced in Luke 6:38 and 1 Corinthians 16:2. Second, beyond their ability, giving is sacrificial. God's people are to give according to what they have, yet it must be in proportions that are sacrificial. This is reinforced in Matthew 6:28 through 34 and Mark 12:41 through 44 and Philemon 4:19. And third, freely willing, literally, one who chooses his own course of action. Giving is voluntary. God's people are not to give out of compulsion, manipulation, or intimidation. Free will giving has always been God's plan. And this is reinforced in Genesis 4:2 through 4, 8:20, Exodus 25:1, 2, and verses 35 through 4, 5, and 21, 22, 36, and 5 through 7. And then again in Numbers 18:12, Deuteronomy 16:10 and 17, 1 Chronicles 29:9, Proverbs 3:9, 10, 11, 24, Luke 19:1 through 8. Free will giving is not to be confused with tithing, which related to the national taxation system of Israel. And that would be in Leviticus 27:30 through 32. And is paralleled in the New Testament and the present by paying taxes, which is emphasizes Matthew 22:21 and Romans 13:6-7. Gift means grace. The Macedonian Christians employed Paul for the special grace of being able to have fellowship and be partners in supporting the poor saints in Jerusalem. They viewed giving as a privilege, not an obligation. The response of the Macedonian churches was far more than Paul had expected. First refers not to time and priority. Of first priority to the Macedonians was to present themselves as sacrifices to God. Let's see. Generous giving follows personal dedication. Titus initially encouraged the Corinthians to begin the collection at least once 1 year earlier. When he returned to Corinth with the severe letter, Paul encouraged him to help the believers finish the collection of the money for the support of the poor saints in Jerusalem. The giving of the Corinthians were to be in harmony with other Christian virtues that Paul already recognized in them. Faith, sanctifying trust in the Lord, speech, sound doctrine, knowledge, the application of doctrine, diligence, earnest and spiritual passion, and love, the love for choice inspired by their leaders. Free will giving is never according to obligation or command. Though he was rich, a reference to the eternity and pre-existence of Christ. As the second person of the Trinity, Christ is as rich as God is rich. He owns everything and possesses all power, authority, sovereignty, glory, honor, and majesty. He becomes poor, a reference to Christ's incarnation. He laid aside the independent exercise of all his divine rock, and I'm going to mispronounce this word. I apologize, y'all. Prerogatives left his place with God, took on human form, and died on a cross like a common criminal. Thank you might become rich. Believers become spiritually rich through the sacrifice and impoverishment of Christ. They become rich in salvation, forgiveness, joy, peace, glory, honor, and majesty. They become joint heirs with Christ. Paul was not commanding the Corinthians to give any specific amount. It was his opinion, however, that it was to their advantage to give generously so they might receive abundantly more from God in either material blessings, spiritual blessings, or eternal reward. Complete the doing of it. The Corinthians needed to finish what they had started by completing the collection. They needed this reminder since they likely stopped the process due to the influence of the false teachers who probably accused Paul of being a huckster who would keep the money for himself. Willing mind. Paul spoke of a readiness and eagerness to give. God is most concerned with the heart attitude of the giver, not the amount he gives. According to what one has, whatever one has is the resource out of which he should give. That is why there are not set amounts or percentages for giving anywhere stated in the New Testament. The implication is that if one has much, he can give much. If he has little, he can give only little, not according to what he does not have. This means believers do not need to go into debt to give, nor lower themselves to a poverty level. God never asks believers to impoverish themselves. The Macedonians received a special blessing of grace from God to give the way they did. Equality. The Greek word gives us the English word isostasi, which refers to a condition of equilibrium. Thus, the term could also be translated balance or equilibrium. The idea is that in the body of Christ, some believers who have more than they need should help those who have far less than they need. This is not, however, a scheme of Paul's to redistribute wealth within the church, but rather to meet basic needs. As it is written, quoted from Exodus 16:18, the collection of the manna by the Israelites in the wilderness was an appropriate illustration of sharing of resources. Some were able to gather more than others, and apparently shared it so that no one lacked what they needed. Let's see. The brother. This man is unnamed because he was so well known, promised, and unimpeachable. He was a distinguished preacher, and he was able to add credibility to the enterprise of taking the collection to Jerusalem, chosen by the churches to protect Paul and Titus from false accusations regarding the mishandling of the money. The churches picked the unbiased brother as their representative to lend accountability to the enterprise, to the glory of the Lord himself. Paul wanted careful scrutiny as protection against bringing dishonor to Christ for any misappropriation of the money. He wanted to avoid any offenses worthy of justifiable criticism or accusations. Providing honorable things. A better rendering is have regard for what is honorable, or take into consideration what is honorable. Paul cared greatly about what people thought of his actions, especially considering how large the gift was. A brother, a third member of the delegation sent to deliver the gift, also unnamed partner and fellow worker. Titus was Paul's partner, his close companion and fellow laborer among the Corinthians. They also knew of his outstanding character, messengers of the churches. The two men who went with Titus were apostles in the sense of being commissioned and sent by the churches. They were not apostles by Christ, because they were not eyewitnesses of the resurrected Lord or commissioned directly by him. Glory of Christ. The greatest of all commendations is to be characterized as bringing glory to Christ. Such was the case of the two messengers. I hope you enjoyed this devotional Bible reading today. If you haven't already, leave a like and subscribe to this channel. And also leave a comment down in the section of who was Paul's partner in 2 Corinthians chapter 8. And I will be sure to check the description down below for the link to the MacArthur Study Bible, which is a helpful use in interpreting the Bible and discovering what is going on and historical facts about the Bible and understanding the Bible more, because we all need a little help. Now again, trying to understand certain passages and chapters of the Bible. And check out in the description below on some shirts also, because we all can't go running around butt naked. So you might as well check down in the description below and check out some holy shirts. Until next time, God bless you in everything that you do.